the lyrics in the chorus are, show me how to love the unlovable. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? Show me how to love the unlovable. Show me how to reach the unreachable. Have you ever been in a conversation or in a situation with people and you realize there's nothing I can say that can get through in any way? Most of the time that's true because you're trying to get them to change as opposed to really communicate. And then the last one, help me now to do the impossible. And I guess I started out the month by asking us the impossible, or at least what we think is the impossible, which is to forgive everything. In fact, just in our vision statement, to love only, to spend your life only loving. That means no criticism, no judgment, no negativity, loving only. No matter what's going on in your life, no matter what anyone does to you, you are loving. You understand. That seems like an impossible journey, doesn't it, at times? No matter what's going on, you're coming from love. And then forgiving everything to really give yourself the gift of having a clean slate where everything's forgiven. And mostly, it's not forgiving all of this stuff out here, the people that have hurt you and betrayed you. It's mostly, why something got emotional? It's forgiving yourself. Can you audaciously and fearlessly forgive yourself for everything? Even things you probably don't remember, you need to forgive yourself for because you've buried them so far in the background that you don't remember them anymore, but your body does. Your consciousness does. Your subconsciousness does. So, the question I have, and the title of my talk today is, Show Me How. And what I loved about this, when Dr. Lori sent me the slide, what I loved about this was, she said, when I told her the title of my talk, she went, do you have any ideas for an image? I went, no, none. And she sent me this, and she said, how about this? A flower growing out of a rock. You know, some life coming out of something so hard, something impenetrable. And as soon as she showed it to me, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. So the question I have for you today is this, and I've asked this all month, which is the who or what do you need to forgive? So that's the question I've asked every single week. But this week, I want to ask you the question, how are you going to do it? It's one thing to know the things you have to forgive. It's one thing to be able to say, yeah, I need to get rid of that in my life. I need to forgive that. But then the question becomes, how am I going to do it? How do I forgive that? A lot of people think it means, oh, okay, just give it a pass. No, you can't give it a pass. You can't give the person a pass. Because whatever has been done, whatever the unforgiveness is there. Because it's nothing but energy. And what you're really asking yourself to do is to release the energy around whatever that was. That becomes impersonal, static. It moves on. But the energy around it, the emotion, the feelings, all of the above, when you say, I'm just going to give it a pass, or as someone said to me this week, you know what I do? I forgive people. I just stop thinking about it. I stop thinking about it. I said, well, what happens if it comes back up? And they're like, well, it doesn't. I said, but what if it does come back up and something pushes it back up? And it's like, well, then I feel it all over again. I said, then you haven't forgiven it. You haven't really done the work to resolve it. So the question becomes, today's question becomes, how? How do we do it? So, I have a slide from Martin Luther King, a quote, and it's this. Thor, thank you. Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude. Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude. So, all month I've been thinking about forgiveness. And there are things in my life that I'm still working on. Something came up this week about my father, and I said something about my father, and I was like, in my head, I was like, that was harsh, which means I have energy around this with my father, who I thought I'd totally forgiven. I thought I'd really forgiven him, but I realized I didn't. I gave him a pass on some things. And I was like, but I haven't dealt with what I gave him a pass on. And it still touches me when it comes up, when someone brings it up. And it happened to be my brother who brought it up. And he brought it up, and I said something crass. And he brought it up to me. He kind of smacked me in the head. He went, "Well, you still need to work on that. Now I need to unforgive him too for being such a jerk." No. But it was true. It was true. And I was like, wow, this whole concept, it's a constant attitude. It's not just occasionally I can get rid of this thing. Occasionally I can forgive this. Occasionally I can do this. Occasionally I do it, and then the rest of the time I don't. It's, as he says, a constant attitude. It's a philosophy. It's a way of life. If you walk through life as a forgiving person who knows what it is you're doing, as Tiffany brought up, when you get what this energetic field is, what life is, what I am in it, now I'm living from forgiveness. I'm not just forgiving occasionally. So it's, how do we forgive? There's one way. Here's another quote by Desmond Tutu. He said, "Forgiveness gives you a new beginning. Every time you really forgive, you're born again." See that? You came here to be born again. Really, though. You came here to understand that if you're willing to give something up, you're willing to start over. Do you know how many people's careers are destroyed? We just talked about this week. There was an actress in New York, brilliant musical theater actress, who was miscast in a musical that was going to Broadway. And miscast only because she was cast opposite a star and they had no chemistry, somehow. And so right before they got to Broadway, right before they were coming in, she was replaced. Now she was on track, we were talking about this, she was on track to be like the next Bernadette Peters. She was on track to be the next big thing. Her career went nowhere after that. She could not get past that moment of being let go, being fired. Conversely, in 1977, I think it was 77, there was a guy who was doing a chorus line in San Francisco. And all of a sudden he was called into the office and he was let go. And he'd been doing the show for like a year. And there was no explanation. It was just like, you know, we just feel that it's not a fit for this particular track. You know, maybe another show, maybe another time. And that actor basically had a real renegade feel about him, and he kind of just gave them the finger and walked on. That was me. And I was like, are you insane? You're firing me? It's the only show I've ever been fired from. And it was like, you fired me? And I was fired. And instantly, I got a contract with Columbia Records to start recording and being a recording artist. And within 2 years, I was starring on Broadway in another show. In that show, I wasn't even starring in chorus line. No one was. Everybody was in the chorus. That's the point, a chorus line. So I bring that up because I know it personally. I know the feeling of that moment. And I know what it's like to say no to whatever it is you think has done you wrong. And to know that if you drag that with you, you're going nowhere. So that's what this is. Forgiveness gives you a new beginning. And Ernest Holmes said, forgiveness does not excuse the harm. It prevents the harm from controlling your life. That's Ernest Holmes. Oh, next one's Thor. Yeah. Forgiveness does not excuse the harm. It prevents the harm from controlling your life. So I just want to ask you today, is there something going on in your life? Is there something you're still holding on to that perhaps is controlling your life? Even if you don't think it is, don't be so quick to move past it. Don't be so quick to say, no, I dealt with that. Do you know how many times I hear people say to me, I dealt with that? And they're back in my office months later, having not dealt with that. We do it. We fool ourselves. We trick ourselves into thinking, I've dealt with that. And maybe you did. But did you get the roots? Or did you leave the tree in the ground and just pulled the tree out, but the roots are coming back up? So that's what we get to do this month. So I asked myself a question. Why is it so hard to forgive? And I went on a search. And I found so many different reasons from so many different people that my head spun. But there were 5. I always like to find 5 things. 5 things that really stuck with me, and it's this. So the question is, why is it so hard to forgive? Number 1, your brain is wired to protect you. Your brain is wired to protect you. So if something comes along and hurts you, your first reaction is generally protect. And that protection comes with energy, an energy of push, an energy of push away. Get this away from me. I don't want this. So you are neurologically set up to unforgive, to not forgive, to protect yourself. Because if you forgive, many people think if I forgive you, I'm letting you back in. That's not necessarily true. You can forgive someone and then use my phrase, I now treat you with the highest and furthest. I will know the highest about you and know the furthest away from me that you can possibly be. That you get to say that. You get to say that, as long as it's not anger that's doing it, if you've really forgiven. So that's number 1. Your brain is wired to protect you. Number 2, it is wired. Now listen to this. Your brain is wired to constantly replay the event. Every time something happens to you, happens in your life that's harsh, that's dark, that is not pleasant, that doesn't feel good, there's something in your neurological brain waves, those neural pathways that get started. And here's what happens. You're rewired to play it over and over because you are wired to protect yourself. In order to protect yourself, you try to keep thinking about it. You try to keep working it out. As you're doing so, you are creating a neural pathway from that event, as that event, and now it becomes one of your normal routes. You travel that route. And so many people travel through life with all of those routes in place. So 1, you're wired to protect yourself, and 2, you're wired to keep replaying it over and over and over again. 3, this one I loved. Pain requires acknowledgement. When something this was like a whole dissertation this person did, but it was like, when something happens to you that's painful, it requires acknowledgement. How many of you know someone, or maybe it's you, that doesn't acknowledge when things are going bad? It's like, it's all good, it's all God. It is all good, and it is all God, and your life's a mess. Do you know how many times I've had to say that to people? I've actually said, with a loving heart, and with being very calm and careful, but to say, I get that it's all good and it's all God. I teach that it's all good and it's all God. But if your life is falling apart, then the good and the God that you are not using properly. You are not creating from the infinite creation that God is. You're caught in the neural pathway and the constant reruns of all the things that you don't like or that isn't working for you. And you're creating more of the same. So that's number 3. Number 4. Aren't you glad there were only 5? Number 4. And this one, anger. How many people here feel that there are moments in their life they get angry? Karen, did you put your hand up? Are you trying to put Brad's hand up? I have never seen Brad angry in my entire life. But you're married to him, so put his hand up. Yeah. So, anger can feel empowering. So we are caught in this mire and muck of anger feeling like power. I can say what I need to say and let it out, and I can get angry, and it seems so powerful. It's the exact opposite. Anger inside the body is causing disease. It is causing disruption. It is causing unrest. That's what's going on. So, of course, why forgive someone? If I forgive you, I can't be angry at you anymore. I'll lose my power. Forgiveness is weak. It feels weak. And the fifth one, which is really two, identity and pride. Identity and pride. And the identity, let's look at identity for a minute. You all think you know what is happening when it happens. Someone does something, you decide what it is, you judge what it is, and that's what it is. You're now angry, you now have something to forgive or to not forgive, which is really what we're talking about, right? Because you know, identity. But as Tiffany and I were talking, which was a perfect precursor to this talk, if you actually let go of all that facade of what everybody is and who everybody is, and you came from an understanding, a quantum understanding of what life really is and who this person in front of you really is, it does not mean you can be abused by this person or that this person can just walk all over you and do whatever they want. But it does mean that as you treat for their highest and furthest, you know the truth about them. That's the identity part of this. Because what gets in the way of that is pride. Pride. You think that when you forgive someone, when you let go of someone, when you let someone off the hook, you're somehow getting weaker. Something in you, you're not sticking up for yourself. But you know what? It is so much more powerful to stand up for yourself by loving someone and allowing them to pass through, as opposed to attaching a hook to them and letting them be in your life for the rest of your life, because you're just never going to let go. So those 5 things are why it's so difficult for us to forgive. And I'm going to read them again. Your brain is wired to protect you. It is wired to replay the event, creating those neural pathways. Pain wants acknowledgement. Anger can feel empowering. And your identity is off. And your pride is out of control. So, there's a line, my husband's going to love that I'm using this quote. Who said, uh-oh? Thank you, Jim. There is a line from the Lord of the Rings. Yes. What Lord of the Ring fans do we have here? Yes, Kevin's both hands are up. And it was by Kate Blanchett as, how do you say her name? Galadriel? Galadriel, the elf queen. And she was speaking to Elijah Woods, who played Frodo, who was a hobbit, right? And she said this line to him. And it was one of the few things in Lord of the Rings that I enjoyed. That's not true. I actually liked Lord of the Rings. I didn't finish it. I know. Yeah. It's like you with Star Wars. I have to finish it at some point for him. But, no, that was the other one that I didn't finish. I finished Lord of the Rings. I didn't finish, what's that other one that was like the worst finish of any show ever? Game of Thrones. How many Game of Thrones do we have here? Was it the worst closing of a series ever? Yes. Yeah. And there you have it. Yeah. But I got to tell you, I would drive around the city and see these signs that said "got," and I'm like, "Where's the milk? Got milk?" I never knew what it was about. I'm like, "What is got?" Anyway, back to Lord of the Rings. Forgiveness is empowering. And so she said this line to Frodo, and I remember when she said it because I got all teary-eyed, and it's this. Oh, you have it. Thor? When we forget, even the smallest person can change the course of the future. Do you remember that moment? For those of you that love the movie, right? Even the smallest person. What? Oh, sorry, I didn't do mine. I thought I did. There we go. Even the smallest, I even went and found a picture of her saying it. You know how hard that is? Even the smallest person can change the course of the future. Somebody asked me the other day, what do you do at your center? Why do you think people show up? Why do you have such a large online following, do you think? And I say, you know why? I think because what we do at New Thought Now is remind people how powerful they are. we give people the right to live their lives out loud with no regret, to really stand in who they are. That's what this is. No matter who you are, you can change the course of the future, your future, just by letting go, really freeing yourself from anything that is still holding you back. I have a Ernest Holmes quote, which is my last quote, which is, go ahead, Thor. Thank you. Forgiveness is the act of erasing the false from consciousness. I've never seen that quote before. I went looking for a quote from Ernest Holmes on forgiveness, and this popped up. I don't even know what it's from, where it comes from. But think about this for a minute. Forgiveness is the act of erasing the false from consciousness. How many beliefs do you think you have right now in your cadre of beliefs that are false beliefs? Think about it. How many things do you think you believe about yourself that you're still holding against yourself? You know, teaching Bods just now was great to watch people come back to me with their blog saying, oh my God, I still believe this about myself. I still believe I'm unattractive. I still believe that I'm overweight. I still believe I'm underweight. I still believe blah, dot, dot, whatever. And you can prove it. You can get on a scale and prove it if you want to. But how many beliefs do you think you have that are false? How many things that you believe, that you think every day are false thoughts? False thoughts coming from false beliefs, and false beliefs coming from a philosophy of life that is holding you in this relative world, this world of form. Well, I'm going to say we all have at least a few to take a look at. We all have just a couple. Just a couple? A lot more? How many people believe they at least have a couple? Is every hand going up? Okay, good. You're like, all right, fine. Yeah. So we all at least have a couple. But the question becomes, are you okay with those couple? Because you may say yes. You may be like, well, I'm not. Someone said this the other day. They said, well, I'm a human. I'm not perfect. I was like, that stuff drives me crazy. I'm human. Or when someone says to me, I'm a human being having a spiritual experience. I was like, okay, that's exactly opposite. You are a spiritual being, and every time you say, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, what you're basically doing is saying, I am God, and every now and then I'm a lowly human that screws up. And that's what we live from. We actually live from that belief. I am God, and I screw up. And then when I screw up, I'm human. No, you're not. You're God screwing up. Truly. I mean, at the end of Ernest Holmes' life, you all know this quote, when he blew away the duality of God and man, he basically said there's no such thing as God and man. There is man being God being man, and sometimes one of them screws up, and it's not God. Because there's no two things. So, today is your opportunity to allow yourself to start getting rid of the false, to start noticing what's false in your life, to start owning up to what is not really there to serve you. Today's an opportunity to say, you know what? I'm okay with everything about me, and there are some things about me I'd like to enhance. Right? Aren't there some things about you that you'd like to enhance, Carol? I can't imagine what that is, but yes. But it's true. So instead of thinking it as there's something wrong with you, how about remembering that there's something right with you, something right about you, something so perfectly right about you that it's time to give up the rest of it and step into that version of who you are. Because that's the version of who you are that I only ever want to see and know. Namaste. Thank you.